Hello, I'm Joe Parlock, tabletop editor at The Gamer, and today we've been sent from Wizards of the Coast, possibly the Magic release that I've been the most excited for ever, probably. It's Doctor Who. So, as a lot of people have probably complained about over the years, since about 2020, Magic's been doing more and more crossovers with outside stuff, like it did The Walking Dead, it did Arcane, it did Stranger Things, did Lord of the Rings only a few months ago. The latest one is a set of commander decks based on Doctor Who, my favourite show. One of my two favourite things with Magic, so this was just like tailor-made for me. And we can have a look at it. Wizards sent over 2 collector's boosters, and it sent over the Paradox Power commander deck. There's 4 commander decks in total. There is the Paradox Power, which is the red, blue, green one based off of the 12th and 13th Doctors. There's Timey-Wimey, which is the red, blue, white one with the 10th Doctor, 11th Doctor and 9th Doctor, because you never skip 9. There is Blast from the Past, which is the entire classic era. It's all the way up from William Hartnell all the way up to the 8th Doctor, who, embarrassingly, Paul McGann. Jeez. And then the final deck is Masters of Evil, which, unlike the rest of them, it isn't a era. It's just, here's all the Doctor's biggest enemies. Here's the Master, here's the Daleks, here's the Weeping Angels, here's the Valiard, here's also loads of deep cuts. It's a fantastic set. I absolutely love Doctor Who. I love the set, I love the show, I love the cards. So we can have a look at this one, which, like I said, is based off of the 13th and 12th Doctors, so Jodie Whittaker and Peter Capaldi. So, just move back to the side for a sec. One of the big things of this set, and of March the Machine Commander, actually, is Planechase. Planechase is an alternate way of playing the Commander format, where you have this, which is called the Planar Die. It's got 2 sides, and you can pay mana, or you can do it once a turn, to roll the dice, and then, depending on whether you get the Planeswalk side or the Chaos and Shoe side, different effects on the playing cards happen. It's a really fun way of playing Commander. It's I've only really done it in game shops, where they've done like the entire shop is on the same planes, and they were a lot of fun. It adds an element of randomness to the game. It's not compulsory. You can just play the Doctor Who decks completely without Planechase. It's completely fine. But it's just a fun, nice little thing. And it's got loads of really deep cuts to Doctor Who, which I love. I'm going to try and avoid going too much into, oh, this is from this episode, this is from that episode, because basically everybody who likes Doctor Who at the moment, who also plays Magic, is doing that. So I'm going to try my best, but... So you got the Doctor's Childhood Balm, also from the episode Heaven Sent. No, Hellbent, sorry. And Day of the Doctor. I just said I wasn't going to do that. Whatever. Creatures enter tapped whenever Chaos ensues, so whenever you roll that side. For each opponent, choose up to 1 target non-land permanent they control, untap those permanents, and then they phase out. And then they stay phased out for as long as this is in play. So Planes walk away, they all phase back in. Stormcage Containment Facility. Cool thing, each creature card in your graveyard has Escape. Escape is one of those mechanics which hasn't been brought back in a very, very long time. I think it's had a few cards in like Modern Horizons 2, but it was in Thyros Beyond Death in 2020. And it's just you exile cards from your graveyard to play another card. The Drum Mining Facility from one of my favourite episodes, which was Under the Lake and Before the Flood. Whenever you roll the planar die, creatures you control get +1/+1 and gain haste until the end of turn. I will admit I don't quite see the connection to the story with that one. Like one of my favourite things about this set is how flavourful the designs are with the episodes. I don't quite get that one. Hey ho. Seeing Towers of Darillium. Each non-land card in your hand without Foretell has Foretell. That one is cool. And the reason I'm just going to do it. The reason that one is cool is because one of the first things the Doctor found out about River is that the last time he would meet her would be at the Singing Towers of Darillium. So he had it foretold. So giving stuff foretell is like a really nice callback to how the Doctor knew in advance what was going to happen there. Fixed Point in Time. Some of my favourite art from the set is on this one, by Sid Mills. Whenever you encounter a fixed point in time, until your next turn, if a player would planeswalk as a result of rolling the plane or die, chaos ensues instead. So basically, it stops in a commander game. It will stop anybody else from planeswalking away, and it would give you another chaos ensues trigger. Besiege Viking Village from the Girl Who Died. All creatures have Boast, which fits really nicely because Boast was in Coldheim, which was a Norse mythology Viking inspired set, which fits nicely with the Viking in this. North Pole Research Base. I wasn't expecting this episode last Christmas. I wasn't expecting that to get a card, but it did. At the beginning of the upkeep, target opponent draws a card and creates a treasure token. I guess it's about giving gifts, seeing as it's the episode with Santa in it. Whenever Chaos ensues, create a 2/2 white alien creature token. Whenever you do, tap target non-token creature an opponent controls. That's the Dream Crabs from the episode. Temple of Atropos from Flux, the 13th Doctor, her last series, which was just like one story. At the beginning of post-combat main phase, there's an additional beginning phase after this phase. There is a card from Commander Legends called Sphinx of the Second Sun. I've had so many arguments with people about how that card works, and it works the exact same way as this. What a lot of people think it does is you go to combat, you do all your combat, you then get to untap, upkeep, draw, and then you have your second main phase. What actually happens is you go to combat, you go into your second main phase. After your main phase, you untap, upkeep, draw, then go to your end step. You don't get to untap all your mana into your second main phase. And it's such a weirdly confused ability. And I kind of wish they'd reworded how it did it here, but it's a powerful ability. It's especially powerful with Doctor Who because of the 9th Doctor card, which gives you another upkeep. So every turn you'd have 4 upkeeps, which is pretty gnarly. Kablam, where the Doctor argued in favour of Amazon. Whenever one or more creatures you control deal combat damage to a player, create a treasure token. It's a neat ability. It's not the most powerful. I suppose it's really good if you're going wide, but The Dining Car. When you planeswalk to the dining car, each player creates a food token. 66 seconds. At the beginning of your upkeep, sacrifice a creature with the least toughness among creatures you control, then investigate. In Mummy on the Orient Express, the whole thing for that was there was a mummy that was attacking the Orient Express in space because Doctor Who. But the way it would pick its victims is it would always go for the one who it thought was the weakest or the most ill. So, like, its first victim was a lady who was like well over 100, and then it went for people with illnesses and disabilities and mental health issues. And it was, saying it like that, it makes it sound a bit more problematic than it really was, but it was a neat idea for an episode, and I really like how they've done it on this card with targeting the creature with the least toughness. So yeah, that's the Planechase deck that comes with Paradox Power. Each deck has its own Planechase deck. So there's 40 Planechase cards total. And the thing is, if you've got all the decks, you can just totally mix them up and do what you like with them. That's completely fine. Like, Planechase is just Planechase. You can put any Planechase card in any other thing. So, every Doctor Who deck is legal in Commander, obviously, because it's a Commander deck. Also legal in Vintage and Legacy, and all the common cards are legal in Pauper. It's not legal in... I can't open this. That's not great. It's not legal in Standard. It's not legal in Modern or Pioneer or... oh no. Whatever other weird format you play. It's not legal in any sort of rotating or set limited format. That's fine. So the commanders of the deck, because 3 out of 4 of these decks have partner commanders, so you can run both of them. And the way this set does it is it gives the companions Doctor's Companion, like on Yaz, where they can be your commander as long as the other commander is only a Time Lord Doctor. So stuff like Morothan the Boundless, who has Changeling and is every creature type, couldn't partner with Yaz because it has other creature types as well as Time Lord Doctor. It's a neat way of ensuring that you can't just partner everything with the companions. Like, you can only put a Doctor with a companion, but it also means you can put any companion with any Doctor. So if you wanted to put Sarah Jane Smith with Peter Capaldi, you can do that and it will be awesome. So, the 13th Doctor, whenever you cast a spell from anywhere other than your hand, put a 1/1 counter on a target creature. At the beginning of your end step, untap each creature you control with a counter on it. So the big theme of this deck is playing cards from anywhere other than your hand. So exiling, foretelling, playing from your graveyard, playing off the top of your deck, playing from the bottom of your deck, all those sorts of things. Anything other than in your hand loves the new Paradox word. Yasmin Khan. Exile the top card of your library. Until your next end step, you may play it. So you see, they fit together. You just tap Yaz, exile the card, play it. 13th Doctor triggers. Right, we have got quite a bit to open, so we're just gonna. I'm not gonna go quite as in depth on everything. We've got the Psychic Paper. That one just lets you sort of change names of stuff, which you don't tend to see a whole lot of anymore. I think, was it called Spy Kit? The card that let you do that before? And there was some weird stuff you could do with that, so I'm looking forward to seeing what people can do with Psychic Paper. TARDIS, because of course there's a TARDIS. Whenever you attack, if you control a Time Lord, the next spell you cast this turn has Cascade, which works really nicely with the 13th Doctor, letting you play stuff from exile. Also works really nicely with the War Doctor in particular, because you exile every card off the top of your library. Sonic Screwdriver. 3 of the 4 decks have the Sonic Screwdriver. The 4th one, the Masters of Evil, has a Laser Screwdriver, which does kind of the opposite of this. So where this one can scry, that one can surveil. I think that one can tap down artifacts, this one can untap them. It's a nice sort of parallel design. Start the TARDIS. Surveil 2, draw a card, Planeswalk, Jumpstart. It's just a lot of little effects all bundled together, which is always good. Surge of Brilliance with good old Nikola Tesla. Draw a card for each spell you've cast this turn for anywhere other than your hand, and it has Foretell. So that would include itself. When you go to resolve it, it's already seen itself cast, so you would always draw at least one. Iraxa, Empress of Mars, from Empires of Mars, from the 12th Doctor's era. Battle Cry, whenever this creature attacks, each other attacking creature gets +1/+0. So thematically, she commands an army of Ice Warriors. Whenever you cast a spell from anywhere other than your hand, create a red alien warrior creature token. That's not bad. Memory Worm. A lot of people are saying this is one of the best cards in the set. Whenever you cast a spell from anywhere other than your hand, Memory Worm deals 2 damage to target player. That player discards a card, draws a card, and you put a 1/1 counter on Memory Worm. That is a really good way of getting rid of people's hands, make them burn through their deck. It's lovely. Decaying Time Loop. Discard all the cards in your hand and draw that many cards. The cool thing with this is you can retrace it, so you can play it from your graveyard. But if you do, you have to discard a card, which means every time you retrace it, you're drawing 1 less card to sort of fit the episode's theme of they were in a time loop that was shrinking and shrinking and shrinking the more they did it. Vijarian Witness. Flash and Bear Witness whenever another creature dies. If it was attacking or blocking alone, exile it and investigate. Truth or Consequences. Weirdly a real place. There is a real town called Truth or Consequences, and it really was named after a radio show. Each player secretly votes for Truth or Consequences, then those votes are revealed. You draw cards equal to the number of Truth votes, then choose an opponent at random, and it deals 3 damage to them for each Consequences vote. There is a bit of a voting theme across the set. This would fit nicely in the Masters of Evil deck, because that has a much stronger voting theme with stuff like the Valiard, and the villainous choices is like its main, its keyword, like Paradox. Bigger on the inside, it can tap to add 2 mana of any one colour, and then gives it Cascade when you cast a spell. So another way to get stuff from exile, and really, really good. Wreck and Rebuild, just good old target artifact destruction. Or you can mill stuff, and you can flash it back to trigger any Paradox stuff. Arcane Signet, it's a classic, it's in every deck. Speaking of, Soul Ring, it's a classic, it's in every deck. Ponder, you don't see a lot of Ponder reprints, so this one's really nice. Look at the top 3 cards in your library, then you can put them back in any order, then you can shuffle, and then you can draw a card. All for 1 blue. It's a very powerful card. Think twice, just draw a card with flashback. Not amazing, but you know. I like the art. The art's from Dark Water, where Clara was throwing TARDIS keys into a volcano to sort of threaten the Doctor into saving Danny Pink. Like, really cool seeing that. Preordain. Again, one that goes with Ponder. Like, you see reprints of this a bit more often, but not quite as much as Ponder. You see these ones a bit more than Ponder, but not that much. You can scry 2, then draw a card. Throes of Chaos. Cascade, Retrace. Doesn't do anything on its own, it's just a way to get a lot of Paradox triggers. Cultivate, absolute classic. Art is from my least favourite episode of Doctor Who, In the Forest of the Night. Absolutely awful episode. So bad. Search for Tomorrow. Search your library for a basic land card, put it onto the battlefield, then shuffle, and it has Suspend. Suspend is more a thing in the Timey-Wimey deck, but it still counts as playing from outside your hand, so it fits nicely into Paradox. You just pay 1 green, and then you have to wait 2 turns, and then you can play it for free. Danny Pink, speaking of, Mentor, because he's a teacher. Whenever creatures you control have whenever 1 or more counters are put on this creature for the first time each turn, draw a card. Not bad. Not a bad effect. Seeing as if you've got a lot of creatures, all you have to do is put counters on each of them, and then you can draw a lot of cards each turn, which isn't too difficult, especially if you're in like an Azorius deck, where you've got stuff like Cathar's Crusade, or the one that puts all the counters on stuff at the start of combat, whose name I've forgotten, all those sorts of things. Osgood, love Osgood, wish he'd come back. When you cast a spell, create a token that's a copy of it, except it isn't legendary. Tap, add a colourless, spend this mana only to cast an artifact spell. So you make a copy of Osgood because there were 2 of her, and then it's just a nice mana rock, basically. Whenever you cast a spell from exile anywhere other than your hand, you investigate. So you make a clue token, which can be used for other sort of artifact synergies. It is a powerful card. Twice Upon a Time. I love that this one is in both the 12th Doctor deck and the 1st Doctor deck, seeing as this was the episode where they met. It's an adventure, which there are a few adventures in the set, which is quite nice seeing as we're just after Wilds of Eldraine. Search your library for a Doctor card, reveal it, put it into your hand, then shuffle. Cast a spell only if you control 2 or more Doctors, and you can take an extra turn after this one. So you play the Unlikely Meeting, then you play the Twice Upon a Time from exile, take an extra turn, trigger a load of Paradox stuff. It's a heater. It's a good card. Become the Pilot. Just a way to steal creatures. Enchanted creature gets +2/+2 and can't be blocked unless it's attacking its owner. So you don't attack its owner with it until you absolutely have to. Quantum Misalignment, another one that people are saying is an absolute melter of a card. Create a token that's a copy of a target creature you control, except it isn't legendary, and then it's got Rebound. So basically for 5 mana you can make 2 copies of your commander, which depending on who your commander is can be absolutely lethal. Nardole, Resourceful Cyborg. This one, it's more for spell slingers. So you tap, add blue, make blue mana, get more of them the more counters there are on it, but you can only cast non-creature spells. And you can partner it up with a commander. I think this is one that probably synergizes the least with a Doctor, but yeah, we love Nardole. Nardole's great. Flatline, another one of my favourite episodes. Wish there was a natural boneless creature card, but I'm happy with Flatline. Creatures your opponent control have base power and toughness 0-1 until the end of turn. So if someone's swinging in with 100 billion creatures, just boop, nah, they're not doing any damage unless they've got counters or they've got a lord on the battlefield or anything like that. If there's any sort of stat changing going on, then Flatline will kind of whiff. But it's a neat card. I do like it. It's one I think is going to be less useful than people think it is. Bill Potts, one of the best companions. Whenever you cast an instant or a sorcery spell that targets only Bill Potts, or activates an ability that only targets Bill Potts, copy that spell or ability. You can choose new targets for the copy. So it's kind of like Ivy Gleeful Spell Thief from Dominaria United, but arguably not as well. Not even arguing, it's not as good. But you know, stuff like Zadahedron Grinder, I guess, would be quite good with it. Like the or Orithan, Hero of Lavabrink, the one that can copy things. That would be really nice with Bill. Into the Time Vortex. It's another one where it's just Cascade and Rebound. So on its own, it doesn't do anything. It just sort of helps trigger a lot of Paradox stuff. Dan Lewis, my least favourite companion. Non-creature, non-equipment artifacts you control are equipment, which is it's a neat ability. I will admit it is a neat ability because if you've got a load of treasure tokens, you can just throw them all onto Dan or any creature and just swing in with them. It gives Voltron decks an interesting new way to get lots of equipment on stuff, and it does give you a way to use tokens that isn't just gobbling them up. Okay, now we got Flaming Tyrannosaurus. It's a menace, 7 mana with menace. With the Paradox, whenever you cast a spell from anywhere other than your hand, Flaming Tyrannosaurus deals 3 damage to any target, which is absolutely brilliant if you can find a way to give it Death Touch, because then it's just blow anything up. Just bam, dead. Also, it's good on its own as well, because the bigger it gets, the more people are going to want to get rid of it. If they do get rid of it, though, it's then going to blow up in their face. It's a neat card. Ryan Sinclair. I think Ryan is an underrated companion, personally. I think the editing of his series kind of screwed him over, because he had a lot of comedic moments that just happened in the background that you couldn't see because they were focusing on other things. And it was a bit of a shame. But anyway, Ryan's card itself is brilliant. Whenever he attacks, exile cards from the top of your library until you exile a non-land card. You can you may cast the exile card without paying its mana cost if it's a spell with mana value less than or equal to Ryan's power. So the bigger it gets, the better stuff you can play. It also synergizes very nicely with the War Doctor. Yeah, Ryan's one of those like sleeper hits of this set. Return the Past. As long as it's your turn, each instant and sorcery card in your graveyard has flashback. Its flashback cost is equal to its mana cost. It's a nice way to get lots and lots and lots of Paradox triggers, especially if you've got the cheaper spells like Preordain, Ponder, any of those sort of like 1 or 2 mana spells. With that and any sort of Paradox card, mwah. Impending Flux. Deals X damage to each opponent and each creature they control, where X is 1 plus the number of spells you've cast from anywhere other than your hand this turn. And it's got Foretell, so a bit like the other one, it will count itself when you cast it. So at the very least you'll get 1 damage, but for 3 mana you'd hope you've set up a bit more than that. The Flux. So there are 19 sagas in this set, and they're all based off of different episodes from different eras of the show. And so the 13th Doctor's main one is this. It's The Flux, which is the only one where it's an entire series rather than a single story. Like back in the classic Doctor Who days, they used to have lots of like 6-7 parters, but this is the only one where it's just an entire series. It deals 4 damage to each creature. The main thing is the last one is you get 6 red. So as long as you've got 6 turns and you can pay 4 mana and the game hasn't ended by then, or if you've got a way of speeding it up with Proliferate or anything like that, or Read Ahead. There's in the Blast from the Past, there's Barbara Wright who gives everything Read Ahead. You know, if you can find a way to get to that quickly, that is going to be a melter. Otherwise, you are waiting a long time for not a whole lot. Sisterhood of Khan. Enters the battlefield with a 1/1 counter on it. Whenever you cast a spell from anywhere other than your hand, double the number of 1/1 counters on Sisterhood of Khan. That is nasty. I mean, it's still blockable by like a 1/1. Like, there's no trample, there's no evasion of any sort. But something getting bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger. With how many cards we've got that have like saved counters recently. So stuff like the Ozolith, Resourceful Defense, stuff like that. Having something that can double the counters so easily like that is just yikes. Graham O'Brien. Whenever you cast a spell from anywhere other than your hand, create a food token, because he always carried sandwiches. Because the writing in this series wasn't very good. Yay. Carvanista. I liked Carvanista. I thought Carvanista was a lot of fun. Carvanista Loyal Lupari. Vigilance, Trample, Haste. Whenever Carvanista attacks, put a 1/1 counter on each human you control. And then the adventure, Lupari Shield. Humans you control gain indestructible until your next turn. I have seen a lot of people who aren't as aware of Doctor Who asking, why is this a dog if it cares about humans? And the whole thing with the Lupari is that they were all assigned an individual human to take care of and like to protect. And so Carvanistas was Dan Lewis. So at the start of the Flux, Carvanista just sort of rocks up and was like, "Oh, I'm your bodyguard dog. I don't want to do this. You're an ass." It was brilliant. I like Carvanista. Flux wasn't bad. Like, as far as people like to rag on it, but I thought Flux was good. The Foretold Soldier. This is the one from Mummy on the Orient Express. This is the one from the Dining Car Planechase card. Must be blocked if able. Can't be blocked by more than one creature. If it deals damage, exile it face down and it becomes Foretold, which is a really cool design because we've never really seen something that can make something Foretold, like once it's already out in play. So yeah, it comes in, it attacks, it can't really die. Like, I think it can die. Of course it can die, but it comes in, it's an inevitable thing that you have to block it, you have to throw someone else in front of it, and then you can't really stop it once it's gone back into being Foretold. Fugitive of the Jadoon. This is the saga for the Fugitive Doctor. Again, another really good episode. You make a human and you make a rhino because that had the Jadoon in it. You investigate, and then you can exile a human to search for a Doctor card because of the big reveal that the human was actually an earlier incarnation of the Doctor. It was cool. River Song. You draw cards from the bottom of your library rather than the top. That is absolutely wild. Like, it's a bit of a pain to play because you have to pick up your deck and pull the card out, and you know, who's got the time for that? But there are cards which they bounce to the bottom of your library after you've played them. So with River Song, is it Time Stretch? There is a card that gives you an extra turn. You play that, it goes to the bottom of your library. Normally, that means it's just gone. With River Song, that means you get extra turns every turn. So as long as you've got enough mana to play it, you're golden. And it's also got, whenever an opponent scries, fails, or searches their library, you put a 1/1 counter on River Song, and then they deal damage to that player equal to their power. Because River Song hates spoilers, which I think is a cute little design. Madame Vastra, partner with Jenny Flint. Guess what the next card's probably going to be? Madame Vastra must be blocked if able. Whenever a creature dealt damage by Madame Vastra this turn dies, create a clue token and a food token, because she is basically the inspiration for Sherlock Holmes and the Doctor Who universe, and also she's a flesh-eating lizard Silurian from the Dawn of Time, and she's brilliant. Like, bring Vastra back. Just bring the entire Potodestagan back. Bring Jenny back, bring Strax back, bring Vastra back. I love them all. There she is, Jenny Flint, partner with Madame Vastra, her wife. First strike, training, which we haven't seen in a little while. And whenever you sacrifice a clue or food, put a 1/1 counter on another target creature you control. So basically, Vastra builds them up, Jenny knocks them out, Jenny buffs Vastra. They're in love. It's brilliant. And Strax. Vigilance, Trample, Grenades. Sacrifice an artifact. When you do, Strax fights another target creature that player controls. And then Glory of Battle. Whenever Strax deals combat damage, you put a 1/1 counter on him. He's a Gruul stompy. He likes fighting things. He likes getting bigger. He's a Sontaran. Of course he does. There he is, the 12th Doctor. The first spell you cast from anywhere other than your hand each turn has Demonstrate. So you cast a spell, and then you can choose to copy it for yourself, so you'll have 2 of them. But if you copy it, someone else also gets a copy. So in total, there'll be 3 of the same spell being cast. 2 of them yours, 1 of them an opponent's. Sometimes that might hit you in the face, but a lot of the time having 2 copies of a spell is worth the risk. Whenever you copy a spell, put a 1/1 counter on the 12th Doctor. So Veyran Voice of Duality is going to love the 12th Doctor. The Fugitive Doctor. Whenever the Fugitive Doctor enters the battlefield, investigate. Whenever the Fugitive Doctor attacks, you may sacrifice a clue. When you do, target instant or sorcery card in your graveyard gains flashback. Again, it's another way to get lots of paradox triggers. I don't think it's the most powerful Doctor in there. I think the 9th is better. I think the 6th is better. I think the 12th is better. But, you know, I think the Fugitive Doctor is a decent card. And it's really cool that she even got a card, because she's never been the incumbent. Like, her and the War Doctor have always been... They've appeared after what their era is meant to be. So, like, the Fugitive Doctor is meant to be way before the first Doctor. So we're never going to get episodes with her as the Doctor. So having a card for her, I think is nice. I do like that. Me the Immortal. Me being obviously an immortal. The Doctor made her. She's from the Viking village. The Doctor made her immortal, but she has a human memory span, so she constantly forgets what her past was, so she sort of becomes detached from the rest of humanity, and she survives right up to like the final minutes of the universe. Me is really, really cool, and every time she shows up she's slightly different. Like, Maisie Williams was brilliant. Like, she's one that I hope they bring back. At the beginning of combat on your turn, put your choice of a 1/1 first strike, vigilance or menace counter on me. Counters remain on me as it moves to any other zone other than the player's hand or library, which is really interesting. I think there are commanders that do that already. But you know, this keeps it in exile, this keeps it in your graveyard, this keeps it in the command zone. It's a really interesting card. You can cast me from your graveyard by discarding 2 cards in addition to paying its other costs. The other costs don't include command tax. So if Me's in your graveyard, that's a really great way of avoiding paying command tax. Frostfair Lurefish from... I can't remember what it's called. Deep Ice? The one where Bill and the Doctor go to the Frostfairs. When Frostfair Lurefish enters the battlefield, create 2 1/1 blue fish creature tokens and 2 tapped creature tokens. Fish you control have haste and can't be blocked by humans. I've wanted to make a fish deck for so long, but there isn't a commander that mixes together fish and whales, which I think it should. Even though whales aren't fish, I don't care. We get krakens and octopus and serpents and leviathans. We can have fish and whales and sharks, which I think that would be a really neat one to have in it. Lunar Hatchling. I will defend Kill the Moon. Lots of people really hate Kill the Moon. I thought it was a cool episode. I think the messages weren't brilliant, but I think the premise is really, really interesting. And the whole thing was that the moon is an egg, and it was hatching, and they had to decide whether to kill the thing that was hatching out of the moon to keep it in place, or let it hatch out, destroy the moon, and hope that everyone survives afterwards. I understand it was silly. I still think it was really cool. Heaven Sent, arguably the best episode of Doctor Who ever made, and it just had Peter Capaldi in it. It was like a one-hander. Absolutely incredible episode, and a big part of that episode is that he's stuck in a loop. So he will die, then a new version of him will be made, and over billions and billions and billions of years he's punching down this massive diamond wall. Heaven Sent basically does the same thing. So after you've done the 3rd chapter of it, you exile it, then you can recast it for free. Oh no, you can cast it by paying 1 blue, 1 red. So every 3rd turn you're chipping away at someone, you've got 1 damage to them. If you manage to take someone out with it, you draw 7 cards. If you don't manage to do it, you just repeat the loop again, and so you're playing the long game, just like the episode. Last Night Together. Choose 2 target creatures, untap them, put 2 1/1 counters on each of them. They gain Vigilance, Indestructible and Haste until end of turn. After this main phase, there is an additional combat phase. Only the chosen creatures can attack during that combat phase. So it's River Song of the Doctor's Night on the Singing Towers of Darillium. Bit of a weird one, that their whole thing is combat for that, to be honest. Like, I understand the choose 2 bit, but I don't understand why it's combat focused. But, you know, it's still it's a neat card for any sort of like gruely stompy deck that wants big creatures smashing in. Especially if you're going tall rather than going wide. Because then you could probably just pick your 2 biggest creatures that you could attack with anyway and win. River Song's Diary. Whenever a player casts an instant or sorcery spell from the hand, exile it instead of putting it into the graveyard as it resolves. At the beginning of your upkeep, if there are 4 or more cards exiled from River Song's Diary, choose one of them at random. You can cast it without paying its mana cost. Confession Dial. So this is the thing that the Doctor was trapped in Heaven Sent. When it enters the battlefield, you surveil 3. And you can tap it to give a target legendary creature card in your graveyard escape. So, you know, the Confession Dial, its thing was that it trapped people. So I don't quite get why this gives them escape. But being able to surveil stuff, being able to reanimate creatures, being able to do that every turn, it is a really good card. It's just a little bit wonky with the flavour. Clara Oswald. If Clara Oswald is your commander, choose a colour before the game begins. Clara Oswald is the chosen colour. If a triggered ability of a Doctor you control triggers, that ability triggers an additional time. And it's got Doctor's Companion. Clara is basically the Prismatic Piper, or the Faceless one of this set. She can partner with any Doctor and give you any colour that you want. So if you can't find a colour combination that quite fits for you, you can just put Clara with her and you're swimming. Every Doctor has a triggered ability as well, so Clara can double all of them. Of course, some of them are better than others, but I think it's neat because the whole thing with Clara is that she was spread through the Doctor's timeline and appeared to every incarnation, right the way back from like Hartnell up to 12th Doctor. So her being able to partner with any of them is just so on brand. It's brilliant. Chaos Warp, it's a classic. This is art from Heaven Sent. You just shuffle something into someone's library, then they reveal cards until they get a permanent, they put it on the battlefield. It's a removal spell with a potentially massive downside, and it is a lot of fun. Cursed Mirror. I believe Cursed Mirror was in the Strixhaven Commander decks, and it was one of the exclusives there, so it's neat that this is getting a reprint in another Commander deck. Or is that Mirror Braces? I don't know. As Cursed Mirror enters the battlefield, you may have it become a copy of any other creature on the battlefield until end of turn, except it has haste. Always a good way to copy stuff. Carpet of Flowers is one hell of a reprint. At the beginning of each of your main phases, you add X mana, where X is the number of islands target opponent controls, as long as you've not already done it that turn. So if someone's playing blue, if they're sitting there with their 2 open blue mana, but they've got 500 islands somehow, you've just got a lot of mana to work with. It's very situational. If you're not playing in a pod that has blue in it, then you're basically dead in the water. But for 1 green, it is an absolute banger of a card. Dreamroot Cascade enters tapped unless you control 2 or more other lands. Finally, a precon with good lands in it. Temple of Mystery, not as good. Vine Glimmer's Snarl, again. People go back and forth over snarls. I think they're good just because you can get them in untapped, but I do see the argument that you're revealing information about your hand to get them in untapped. Waterlogged Grove is another one. This is another one of those massive cards in the set. You can sacrifice it to draw a card, or you can basically a pain land. So you take 1 damage to get a green or a blue. Desolate Lighthouse. Just a bit of card draw. Rockfall Vale. It's another one where it comes in untapped unless you've got 2 or more lands. Rootbound Crag enters tapped unless you control a mountain or a forest. I still strongly believe that the shock clans should just be in Commander decks. I don't think they are good enough to warrant the hype around them. I think they should just be in Commander decks. If they're never going to be in Commander decks, I think Rootbound Crag and cards like it are the next best thing. Temple of Abandon. The temples, I think, they always enter tapped, but you get to scry. Cinderglade. Now, this one's good because it's got the 2 land types in. So if you've got something that you search for a forest, you can just go get it. Sheltered Thicket, same thing. Except this one always enters tapped. And it's got cycling. Another temple, Temple of Epiphany. Another Snarl. Stormcarved Coast, that's another one of the like really good lands. Fiery Islet, weirdly not as exciting as the Simic one, but does the same thing. Game Trail, you can reveal a mountain or a forest from your hand. If you don't, enter the battlefield tapped. It's a Snarl, but not. And Exotic Orchard, just lets you add for any colour anyone else can produce, which in this format specifically is a little bit odd because the colours aren't as balanced. Red is in 2 of the decks, blue is in all 4 of the decks, and then black is in 1 of the decks. So if you're if you're playing black, Exotic Orchard in this isn't helpful. Gallifrey Council Chamber, it's a land specifically for Time Lords. Farseek, it's ramp. Plains, Island, Swamp or Mountain. Which would help you search for the ones that have the 2 land types in them. Beast Within, always a good card to have. Nice to have an English version because for some reason I've become absolutely inundated with the Phyrexian promo version of that. Like every one of my green decks has a Phyrexian Beast Within for some reason, and I always forget which card it is. Growth Spiral, always nice to have a new art Growth Spiral. Draw a card, you can put an extra land from your hand onto the battlefield. Talisman of Curiosity, that includes the 13th Doctor's goggles that she used when she was making a screwdriver. Talisman of Impulse, it's the Gruul one, which has the 12th Doctor's guitar. Rogue's Passage, which makes things unblockable, sorry, with art from Journey to the Centre of the TARDIS. Frontier Bivouac. It's Triland, it's not a Triome. Like a Triome would have been nice, but Triland's still good. From the Ghost Monument. Yeah. Like, it's a bit difficult to tell because there's not a whole lot going on there, but it's from the Ghost Monument. Reliquary Tower. Again, another card that I've suddenly been inundated with. But I like having the Gallifrey version. Myriad Landscape. It's in basically every Commander deck. Like, I don't think it should be uncommon. Temple of the False God. So some people get very, very passionate about their dislike of Temple of the False God, but I think it's good. And that's the Rings of Akaten. Path of Ancestry. Really good for in a format like this where you've got multiple Doctors, multiple Time Lords, multiple humans, multiple aliens. There's a lot of creature title focus in this, and Path of Ancestry works nice there. Command Tower with the 12th Doctor's TARDIS. Each deck, it's either each deck or 3 of the 4 decks has a different Command Tower in with a different TARDIS interior. An Ominous Cemetery from... See, the flavour text is from the 10th Doctor. I think the art is meant to be from either The Angels Take Manhattan or from Village of the Angels. I don't know. Pay 5, tap it, exile it. Target creature's owner shuffles it into their library, which is one of the best ways of getting rid of a creature. Doesn't get rid of commanders, because they can just put it back into the command zone. But anything else, if they're playing like a reanimation deck, shuffling it into their library is just as good. And then we got the basic lands. So, there's the 2 islands. I really love that one. I think that's some of my favourite art. That one is Bad Wolf Bay. A place I've been to where they filmed that. It's in Wales. It doesn't look quite as traumatising and heart-wrenching in person, but what are you gonna do? There's the mountains. I don't know what that one is. I don't know what art that one's from. Or that one, for that matter. Maybe they're just not meant to be places. And the forests. And then you get the etched foil, thicker display card. This isn't a legal Magic card. It's just for sort of displaying. I've never quite got the point of them, but they're pretty. I like etched foil. A lot of people don't. I really like etched foil. Then we got the tokens. We got the human, who is the human version of the Fugitive Doctor from Fugitive of the Jadoom. Fish from Deep Ice. Ice Cold. I can't remember what that episode's called now. Clue token, which is the Fob Watch. Food, Graham's sandwich, for some reason. So has it got... I've no idea what sort of sandwich that's meant to be, but it looks vile. Treasure, TARDIS key. An adipose for the alien. Ice Warrior, Alien Warrior. A couple of those. A copy token. And a little ad cards. And then the tokens are double-sided. So fish, a beast with the thing from Can You Hear Me? Copy. Ice Warrior, copy. Gross Sandwich. A Jadoon. And Osgood's token. So when you play Osgood, you get a copy of it straight away. And a treasure. And that is the entire Paradox Power deck. It is a really neat deck. I like the I like that the themes for these decks aren't the usual 1/1 counters or creature type or artifact. Like, there's some interesting themes in here. Yeah, it's a really nicely done deck. Oh no, I'm an idiot. We've got a promo. We've got a whatever they're called, sample pack to open. So that's an ad for Secret Lair. Ooh, foil 7th Doctor. Whenever the 7th Doctor attacks, choose a card in your hand. Defending player guesses whether that card's mana value is greater than the number of artifacts you control. If they guess wrong, you may cast it without paying its mana cost. If they don't cast a spell this way, you investigate. And also we've got Everything Comes to Dust. Nice. Convoke. Exile all creatures except those that share a creature type with a creature that convoked this spell, all artifacts and all enchantments. That's a weird way of phrasing that. I'd have put exile all artifacts, all enchantments and all creatures except those. But it's a board wipe. It's a board wipe with Convoke and it's got exile. Considering that this is in the timey-wimey deck and that one's also got Farewell in it, so there's a lot of exiling going on there. There's a lot of just, I don't want anyone to have anything in their graveyard, just goodbye. So yeah, it's a really nice sample pack. Next up, we've got the 2 collector booster packs. So, these don't contain any cards that aren't in the 4 commander decks. They only have, it's the same 200 cards, no, well, 400-ish cards, I guess. The main difference is art treatments. So where you can only get standard art treatments in the decks, these you can get extended art, you can get surge foiling, you can get the showcase art. They're just bling, basically, but they're really nice. So and of course they have the chance of getting the serialized Doctors, which I swear if we open one of those, I will lose it. So an Alien Salamander token, who is a Sea Devil. Every pack's got a foil basic land in it. First card is a Surge Foil, the 4th Doctor. You may look at the top card of your library at any time, and once each turn you can play a historic land or cast a historic spell from the top of it. When you do, you make a food token. Historic is like a batching word which ties together artifacts, legendary spells and saga enchantments. It's a really, really clever way, because historic existed for the Doctor Who decks. It was in 2018's Dominaria where that was introduced. The fact that they managed to get a keyword that already exists, or an ability word that already exists, and it perfectly fits the needs of the Blast from the Past deck, which has so many legendary creatures, has so many artifacts, has so many sagas, it has so many of all of them. It fits so perfectly into it, it's just genius design. Choked Estuary. It's another one of those reveal lands. Right, this one's Demir. And it's art from Gridlock. Ooh, foil TARDIS. Whenever the TARDIS attacks, if you control a Time Lord, gets Cascade. Very nice. War Room. Really good for mono-coloured commander decks, because you just pay 1 life, 3 mana, tap and draw a card. Vine Snarl. Is this just going to be a land pack? we just saw a Snarl in the deck. You reveal a forest or an island and it can come in untapped. Ooh, extended art Master Mesmerist. Target creature an opponent controls with power less than or equal to the Master's power gains Skulk until the end of turn. Goad it. Skulk basically means it can't be blocked by, I think it's by creatures with power bigger than it. Whenever a creature with Skulk deals combat damage to one of your opponents, you put a 1/1 counter on the Master and you draw a card. So it's a way of making your opponents' smaller creatures benefit you. They can't attack you, they have to attack someone else, they can't be blocked, and when they do deal damage, you get the Master bigger. Solemn Simulacrum. So, in Magic, Solemn Simulacrum has the nickname Sad Robot, because a lot of the art for it is just a robot looking sort of forlorn. So, for this set, they decided to make it an actual sad robot by using the Vardy from Smile, which communicate with emoji on their face. It's another one of those things where it's like, oh yeah, obviously Doctor Who fans made this. Because who would put Sad Robot and Vardy together? I love it. 4 knocks. Vanishing 4 at the beginning of your pre-combat main phase, you draw a card. So after 4 turns it disappears, unless you've got a way to stop it from entering with any counters. So if you've got a Solemnity, or if you've got a way to constantly add more counters to it, you can keep it in play. Really good card. Basically 4 turns of extra card draw for 3 mana in white. Good stuff. Another land, Temple of Epiphany. Extended foil though, so that's nice. Extended art, Surge Foil, Sarah Jane Smith. The secondary commander for the Blast from the Past deck. Whenever you cast a historic spell, Investigate, this ability triggers only once each turn. I'm not 100% sure if I like Surge Foiling. It has a neat sort of oil slick look, but it does make it a bit tricky to read sometimes. Oh, okay. Okay. Extended Surge Waterlog Grove, I think, is one of the most valuable cards in the set. Yeah, it's a great land. It's a great art treatment. Surge Foil. Couldn't ask for any more. Surge Foil Return to Dust. Commander staple. Not seen as much play as it used to, but it used to be everywhere. It's just good old artifact and enchantment removal. So this is the, like the 7th Doctor we saw, this is the TARDIS showcase treatment for the 9th Doctor. Whenever the 9th Doctor becomes untapped during an untapped step, you get an additional upkeep step after this step. Lots of the word step there, but basically you get 2 upkeeps. Very nice. And a foil, the Master Mesmerist. Foil Showcase. Exactly the same card, just art from the demons. And our token is a Jadoon. And the Sea Devil. And our final pack in this hour-long... Like, this has gone on longer than an actual episode of Doctor Who. So our token is an alien insect. A Menoptera, specifically. And a fish. Basic land is a Mountain Surge. The 11th Doctor. Whenever the 11th Doctor deals combat damage to a player, you can exile a card from your hand with a number of time counters on it equal to its mana value. If it doesn't have Suspend, it gains Suspend. So really you just want to find stuff with X. Then it would have 0. And that wouldn't work because it only counts when you remove. So you want ones with 1. You want ones with mana value 1 because then you get stuff straight away. And it can make small creatures unblockable. Sontara in general. Trample, Haste and Battalion. Whenever it attacks and at least 2 other creatures attack, for each opponent goad up to 1 target creature that player controls. Those creatures can't block this turn. So it shuts off creatures and then makes them throw them in harm's way. Regular foil, the 3rd Doctor. The 3rd Doctor gets +1/+1 for each non-creature token you control. Whenever the 3rd Doctor enters the battlefield, create your choice of a clue token, a food token, or a treasure token. Or, if you run Academy Manufactor, just have all 3. Foil Path of Ancestry. Foil Lunar Hatchling, sorry. Extended Rose Tyler, who is the secondary commander for the Timey-Wimey deck. Rose Tyler gets +1/+1 for each time counter on it. Whenever Rose Tyler attacks, put a time counter on it for each suspended card you own, and each other permanent you control with a time counter on it. So you want lots and lots of time counters, and then Rose just gets absolutely massive. Glacial Fortress. We're getting a lot of lands. Glacial Fortress enters the battlefield tapped unless you control a plains or an island. Ooh. Foil Extended Astrid Peth. The companion who never was. Whenever Astrid Peth enters the battlefield or attacks, create a food token. Brand New Sky. Whenever you sacrifice a clue or a food, Astrid Peth explores. Because she was a waitress. And then she died. And she was Kylie Minogue. Canyon Sloth? Slough? Slow? Canyon, that word. And Battlefield tapped. Taps for a red or a black, but it doesn't say that on this. And it's got cycling. So you can pay 2, discard it, draw a card. Ooh! Surge Foil Extended Dalek Emperor. Affinity for Daleks, so it costs 1 less to cast for each Dalek you control. Other Daleks you control have haste. At the beginning of combat on your turn, each opponent faces a villainous choice. That player sacrifices a creature they control, or you make a 3/3 black Dalek artifact creature token with menace. So you could, in theory, get 3 more Daleks to hit them with, unless they sacrifice creatures. Stormcarved Coast, Surge Foil Extended. And that's another banger card. Surge Foil Darkwater Catacombs. I'm getting so many lands in these packs. Not that I'm complaining. 1 and a tap to make a blue and a black. The Second Doctor. Players have no maximum hand size. At the beginning of your end step, each player may draw a card. Each opponent who does can't attack you or permanents you control during their next turn. This is the exact sort of card that I love making. I've made Quain Itinerant Meddler, who's just everybody draws cards. I've made the Archimandrite, which is just draw lots of cards, get lots of life, play a lot of monks. This is the exact sort of thing where I'm like, oh no, my Azorius degeneracy is coming back. Our final card. A foil the Second Doctor. Yeah, I think they're quite big cards as well. So I'm happy with that. The 2 Doctors. This is an absolutely phenomenal set. This is probably my favourite set this year. It's probably my favourite set since Kamigawa last year. So if this is how Universes Beyond is going to be, if we're going to have these flavourful, powerful decks that do interesting things, I'm more than okay with it. Like, roll on Fallout, roll on Assassin's Creed, even roll on Final Fantasy, a series I don't know a whole lot about. Just keep up this level of quality, and also do more Doctor Who, because we've got 14th and 15th Doctors coming. There is a lot of stuff here that didn't happen. There's over 800 episodes to pick from. You could totally just do another Commander deck with it. Why not? So thank you very much to Wizards of the Coast for sending the deck and the packs. Thank you very much for watching. Make sure to check out the Gamer for we've done lists on basically everything to do with Doctor Who at this point. Like, we love Doctor Who. And I will see you next time.